Good morning, Free Enterprise fans, and welcome to the first of 3 races today for the Wyvern Division of the Highway to the Zemus Zone. I am Stormy Galaxies, and joining me for commentary today will be Rex Rawl. Say hello.
Hello.
As you can see, we have 3 runners on the screen today. One was eliminated yesterday, so remaining today are elmagus, Error, and Nightdew. Looks like we got a Kane start here.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really exciting after seeing yesterday's race, which was a real close one, where Flurry unfortunately got eliminated, and elmagus ended up taking the victory in that. I'd like to see if elmagus can repeat that and take another first, or if Nightdew or Error steps up and gets a big win here today.
That's right. elmagus, of course, was the first place winner in last year's league, so we'll see if that performance carries over this time.
Yeah, elmagus just blisteringly fast, especially like if you pay attention to elmagus's menuing, you can just see somebody just flies through those menus through this game.
Oh yes, like I'm jealous, like the way he can multitask menuing, especially during like boss crumble animations. Of course,
Yeah.
Our other runners are no slouches either.
Yeah, when we're talking about this level into the league, we're talking about really good runners all around. So, like, everyone here is really good at it. So. But yeah, it's like I think of like I go into like a shop and I'm like, okay, so it's got Cure 2s, Ether 1s, like coffins in there too. How much money do I have? And meanwhile, elmagus is like in, out, all done.
Yes, to reach this point, the runners had to survive multiple rounds, and I know how you feel in the shopping. When I do the shopping myself, I tend to sell way too many things and wind up having not enough equipment later on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everything in this game is a balancing act. Figuring out exactly what you should sell, what you should keep, figuring what you should buy, what you should save your money for, everything like that, whether or not to keep a character. I think at this point they're lucky to be given a Kane start. Means they get to get a character who's really going to be powerful throughout the game. They can use equipment at the early game to boost up Kane's usability, and in the end game he's just a powerhouse.
That's right. I think Kane has the most versatility in potential equipment, and we are off.
Yeah, especially since Kane doesn't need to go to Mount Ordeals to become good.
Speaking of good, here's an early Quack Kid. He needs a few levels on him, but he gets some powerful black magic.
Yeah, even just like the Antlion boss battle is usually enough to give the level 2 magic, elemental magic, and that's going to be good for the overworld. If you're able to find sirens, you get to the underworld. Usually, just one siren is enough to get him to that quake level, and then he'll just be good throughout pretty much the rest of the scene.
And we also have an Earth Crystal as our first item, so probably not going to check that immediately, but that'll give even more characters. As chat points out, they can go check the treasury at Toroya Castle, which gives a lot of items.
Yeah, whether or not they're equipable items or just sellable items, it's going to be good. We see Mom Bomb in the first boss in the Baron Inn. That's going to be an annoying one for people to try to deal with. There's a Yang behind it who's a decent physical character, but I don't know if people are going to be prioritizing that Baron Inn with Mom Bomb in that location, given it's given like an additional 10,000 hit points.
Yeah, that's the buffer to make sure it explodes, which at this early game location, you're not going to be overcoming that, so it's going to be a much longer fight than many others at that location could be.
First boss fight is usually a very low HP spot, and that's what the runners are used to, so seeing a big 10,000 increase in that in the hit points there, and it's not necessarily a trivial boss either. The physical attacks that come out there, especially at lower levels, can still be dangerous too.
I saw elmagus pick up a Soma drop, and now I'm already hoping for telemeteo strats.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be seeing that. I think elmagus already stole that that Soma drop, because Soma drops and apples in this game, they increase either your MP or HP maximum. However, they also sell for a lot of money.
Ah, rip. However, I do see nightdew and Error already looting Troy. I didn't catch who that was in the bed in Kaipo.
I didn't either, but we'll see. If somebody gets a sand ruby, it'll be a lot more relevant too. It is here. This is where we see the divergence. elmagus going through Kaipo and everything. Air and nightdew kind of I'll just say changing their routes a little bit because of that earth crystal, giving him access to so much more treasure here in Troya, making sure they're going here even before heading to a lot of the normal starting places, like as you see elmagus going to Damsian Castle.
It looks like the Troya treasury had a rune axe for Kane, so he does have a nice weapon out the gate.
Yeah, that's a pretty good weapon for Kane. Probably not the most ideal, but it does have weaknesses on quite a bit of bosses, and he can mitigate some of its less fun properties of the hit percent with his jump and being in the middle of the road.
That's right.
And we see a lot of shopping, a lot of selling. It looks like elmagus is going to go up and summon the hovercraft at this point.
I saw Error buying a few coffins in Troya. Coffins are very nice. Star Veils are for sale there too. Coffins in particular can be used to insta-kill certain bosses because it casts death when used.
Yeah, for bosses like the Baron Guards, the Kaipo Guards, the Dark Imps, they're vulnerable to that, so that you can get through those a lot faster. They're also useful if you don't have a way to one-shot eggs for the grind with the Sirens of the Underground. They're susceptible to the coffins as well, so you can get a bunch of experience. It is a bit more expensive to go through it that way, but if you only need a couple, then it'll be worth it.
And hey, whatever you can do to get ahead, like just a couple eggs is all you need to get a big leg up on bosses.
A big egg up?
Yes, perfect.
All right, so elmagus now running through the Antlion Cave. There's a very easy boss that guards a potential key item spot here, so not a surprise to go there early. There's also a bunch of treasures here that could be sold. Knowing that all the treasure in Damsian and the Antlion Cave might be the reason why elmagus decided not to go over to Troya despite all the treasures there, might feel like he's got enough treasure hunting to do right there with this pretty powerful party of Palom and Kane as well. Error going up to Mount Hobbs to check the character, and nightdew right behind.
Yes, absolutely. Early Antlion is a very standard, very standard kind of play.
And we see Octomam here. Probably not what they want to see. Octomam is a physical-only boss who has a unique property of having his speed be lowered after being hit a few times, and every other, like I think it's 3 hits to remove one leg, and every other hit after that reduces another, and his speed just goes down as it goes. Ooh. So it makes it in a more difficult spot. It's a lot more manageable than a lot of other bosses.
Ooh, and yeah, and Hobbs was just a fight with Golbez for an Edward. I don't think anyone's going to be doing that.
Yeah, as much love as a lot of runners have for Edward, trying to face Golbez in order to get that is still going to be probably not a proposition that a lot of people want to take.
Yeah, the Star Veils from Troya could help with that, but that's still a big time and resource investment for, well, Edward.
The squeeze when it comes to that. We also see the hook as the item for defeating the Octomam at the bottom. So everybody get your hopes alive. We might have a hook seed.
Oh, I'm always hoping for a good hook seed.
Looks like elmagus is now heading over to Troya. Gonna do some shopping at least. We'll see if he decides to raid the treasury like the other runners did, or if that's a place where he's gonna save a little bit of time. And also, we'll see if he's in Troya. He has got a chance to head up to Zot. We'll see if he decides to make that route.
That's right. Another thing I like about elmagus' route here is that by going to Antlion Cave first, he's got a lot more treasure, so he's got more things to sell and can purchase more supplies in Troya.
Well, I think that's normally right, but since the other runners were able to loot the big treasure room in Troya Castle, they also had quite a bit of stuff to sell as well.
Yeah, I see him skipping the treasury.
Yeah, not surprised. I think if he wanted to loot that treasure, he would have done it right away, just like the other runners did. So I'm not surprised that he made this choice at this point. We'll see if he feels at any point that he's desperate for more equipment or money. He's got that in his back pocket if he needs it. But I don't think he's going to need it I don't think he feels like he needs it at this point. He's still getting good items, like we saw a ninja sword and a sorcerer rope here at Silvera. If you see an edge, a ninja sword is a very good weapon for him, and a sorcerer rope is perfect for Palom.
That's right. His already high magic power is going to be increased even further, and like you said, it does not take long for him to start getting even level 2 spells. And beyond that, he learns Virus and Quake very early, hence the nickname of the Quake Kid, or Quack Kid.
Yeah, and the sorcerer rope is also very good defense, especially for the overworld. So it's going to protect Palom and his rather low HP totals as well. Looks like Air is going to be the first to try the Fabul defense boss.
Let's see who it is. And Pain Man. Someone in chat was saying, please Pain Man at King and Queen Eblon. Well, I'm sorry, that's not happening today. They might have trouble surviving it. Well, I don't know. Looks like Kane's gonna have no problems with the... I'm not sure.
Looks like Air is deciding to actually fight this Dark Knight instead of just tank the 3 hits.
Nice. Ah, the way I did it as a kid.
You see nightdew just tanking the hits instead, gonna get the old "justice is not the only right of this world" script. Both of them end up able to defeat the boss, though.
Yeah, that was very close. With worse damage rolls, that could have been problems.
Yeah, or if they hadn't done the Antlion boss first and got the levels, that might have been a bit trickier, but able to survive in the 20s of HP is pretty good.
Of course, it's nothing much, just Murasame, a great weapon for Edge, but, there's no guarantee that Edge ever shows up.
Right, yeah, we don't have guaranteed characters in this flag, but we've seen both that Murasame and the ninja sword, so if Edge is available, he's going to be a pretty strong ninja.
Absolutely. I am a big fan of dupe characters, though. I really think those kinds of seeds are neat.
Yeah, it makes it an interesting... it can be really challenging or really easy depending on which characters you get duplicates of. You see, elmagus fell victim to the Pain Man, not able to eke it out like Air and nightdew did, so we'll see if he decides to prioritize a different location first.
He's picking up hovercraft.
Might be going to check the shop and the character in Eblin Cave here.
Absolutely. This also gets knowledge of who the boss is at the Rubicante spot, but obviously we're not going to be quite taking that on yet, but we'll have an idea for later.
And you see elmagus wisely avoiding the treasure chest in this cave. At this low level, if he comes across the double Staleman chest, which is a trap chest in Eblin Cave, that's going to be doing a lot of damage to this low-level party, so better to just avoid all chests and go straight to what you need. We do see sirens for sale in the Evelyn shop. That's kind of an out-of-the-way place for the sirens to be sold. So we'll see if it ends up being a magma route. Other runners might avoid Evelyn Cave altogether. So we'll see how that affects this this run. Speaking of Edge.
Well, guess who's here?
Now, elmagus had not completed the Payman fight, so he does not have the Mirasami at this fight. Though with the higher HP levels that Edge starts with, he could go and complete that without any problem with Edge in the party.
Absolutely, and I think the other players have seen 2 ninja swords anyways, so I think one of those ninja swords was in the Troya Treasury, so Magus probably doesn't have 2 high-level swords, but even 1 is fantastic.
And we see, well, this is an interesting choice. elmagus is going into Upper Babel. Looks like he wants to fight the, he's opening the chest here, so he wants to come up with that 4 Mad Ogre chest. I don't know, Magus, he saw the Magus sisters as the boss of the Rubicanti spot. You might be thinking he can get to the underground. We'll see about that.
Oh no, sororicide. Ah, Magus' sisters, oh no.
Now we see both Error and Nightdew in the Mom Bomb fight. They are going to try to get that Yang in the Baron Inn. They both survived the explosion. We are at the 6 bombs fight. It doesn't look like either of them might have an attack item to just... Oh no, Nightdew has a blizzard to try to just one-shot all of the bombs at once.
I think he's invoking Kane's Blizzard Spear, which makes a lot of sense.
And both of them have gotten through the Mom Bomb fight. The second fight is Dr. Luge. Probably a lot easier than a lot of other bosses at this point, so I think they're pretty happy to see that. Magus now into the Mad Ogre fight. This is going to get quite a bunch of levels on both Hallam and Yang at this point. Or not Yang, Kane. So that's going to be nice for them.
Absolutely. I generally consider... By the way, at Baron Inn, I generally consider Dr. Luge a free fight because his attacks are not that dangerous, and he splits the spot's HP over a lot of forms.
Yes. We also are seeing elmagus make use of the life glitch. If you throw a life potion at a dying enemy, it'll revive, and since all monsters have a vitality stat of 0, it revives at 0 hit points and dies right away again. And you get credit for both of those kills, so he's defeating 4 Mad Ogres, but he's going to get experience for 7. And that's just a huge XP spot at this point, and taking advantage, knowing that this trap chest is in Upper Babel, just a good way to get a lot of levels early.
And it's an ogre axe from the chest. How appropriate. Meanwhile, Nightdew got only the package from Baron Inn, so that could be a character check, but with Earth Crystal in play, we're not likely to see that.
And it looks like elmagus is continuing to go through the Upper Babel. With that rune axe that he found earlier, that does 4 times damage against the Magus sisters, so he knows this is in the Rubicanti spot, and that might be why he feels confident. Plus, Edge is a higher level character naturally, and so he's got a couple of real good advantages going into this fight. Unfortunately, he didn't get quite enough experience to learn Quake off of those Mad Ogres, which would have been a real nice little piece of offense for his arsenal, but he still feels confident enough to go through it. We'll have another fight here at the King Queen Evelyn spot and see what that is right now. Oh,
very true. Nightdew is showing us the package character was Kane, and also checking the vanilla D-Mist spot. Finds Rubicanti there because D-Mist is up in the tower, smacking down Magus.
This is no vanilla. This is actually a pretty difficult spot for D-Mist. The King Queen Evelyn spot, notorious for having a very high physical attack stat, and the Deep Mist just uses physical attacks. It does use a Cold Mist if you attack it during its mist form, which makes it so these runners don't have access to the Berserk spell, but normally against something like this, you might think about just throwing out a Berserk, but you can't do that in this situation. Luckily, he does have an illusion. That's going to help quite a bit.
Oof. Meanwhile, Nightdew is climbing the Tower of Zot, and Error is climbing Mount Ordeals. So we've got a lot of divergence here, and we'll see what's coming up. Error is finding Bahamut on Mount Ordeals, who is not too bad, mostly free with Star Veils.
Yeah, and if they're strong enough, they might even be able to defeat Bahamut before it Mega Nukes. It doesn't look like he's going to be relying on that. Using the Star Veils is the definite free safe strategy.
At Zudmud in chat, so wait, why would a boss spot that only uses Fire 1 and Fire 2 have high physical? Well, that's kind of the thing about this game, is that the boss stats in Free Enterprise are based on their spot, but in the vanilla game, some of these magic-only bosses have surprisingly high physical stats, like Bahamut spot, Leviathan or Ashura spot. Those hit really hard.
Yeah, Wyvern as well.
And Nightdew is finding Odin in the Tower of Zot.
Yeah, having access to... Oh, excuse me, go ahead.
Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Quack Kid has Lightning 2 yet, and Nightdew takes a reset. What were you going to say?
Oh, I guess I assumed that Nightdew had the Lit 2, but I guess not, and looks like you're going to trigger a random encounter, probably trying to learn that Lightning 2 for the Odin fight.
Right, Odin is weak to lightning, so that would make it much, much easier, even on top of the extra stats on Paladin. Meanwhile, Error is finding the Water Hag in the back attack spot on Ordeals, which is another free boss. All you have to do is hit it 3 times, it goes ARG, and then falls flat into the deep ravine.
Yeah, that's and for lower level fights, this back attack in Mount Ordeals can be a difficult spot. So it's nice to see an easier fight there for the runners. The illusions are proving very useful for elmagus during this Demus fight as well. And elmagus able to defeat this Demus, so very good job there. We'll see if he decides to run back and do a save after this. If it was me, I absolutely would, but...
Oh, save.
Yeah, there we go.
Mega Sisters can be very dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about some of the advantages that elmagus has. Ooh. Even going past the save room, like... Okay, I don't know what elmagus is doing now.
Looks like he's leaving to go check D-Mist.
Oh, good. That's a good call. Gonna do that before. That's interesting. Like, if he felt confident to do the Mega Sisters, like walking all the way out here seems to be a long detour to check this D-Mist.
Absolutely. I would much rather go down and just fly my way back up, but you never know. Meanwhile, in the mirror room, we find the elements, Rubicante and friends. They have only 1,000 HP. They're going to skip the second phase of the fight.
Yeah, and I wonder if our tracker, Maggie the Cat, had seen the item from Mount Ordeals, because I missed that one.
Oh, that's right. I missed it too, because it always comes down sooner than I expect it to.
Yeah, Dr. Cossack saying, oh, it was the pass. Okay, thanks, Maggie. Dr. Cossack saying, Mega Sisters with that party, probably not something he wants to attempt. If it wasn't, then I'm surprised that he went and even went to the King and Queen spot anyways. Selling some items, the Sirens are for sale here, and he buys a bunch of those.
We're going to find a Porum as our first character in Zot, so they have a White Mage now.
Yeah, this gamble up to Zot seems to be paying off with that White Mage for nightdew without a doubt. Getting a White Mage is something that all parties want to do. Error is fighting some Lilith's on the top of Mount Ordeals. You can get this encounter by using a siren. It's one of the best places for experience in the overworld.
Absolutely. The 2 Lilith encounter gives 5,500 experience, which just a few fights of those can be enough to get Quack Kid to quack, but we're not seeing that quite today, but it is a nice little boost. And yes, a mop in Zot, so nightdew is going to be very happy with this party, and the boss, Dark Elf, is not too hard either.
Yeah, the scariest thing about the Dark Elf is he uses Weak and Whisper. Both of these can be nasty depending on who they target. The Weak is going to bring somebody to single digits HP, so even his low tier elemental spells will be able to kill them. And the Whisper turns somebody into a piggy, basically turning off their ability to cast spells. And so if that hits, like it does right here, Fusia, it can be pretty dangerous.
Apparently, D-Mist turned into the Twin Harp, so one, chat will love music. On the other hand, that means it's the start of a rabbit hole. It may or may not pay off. It's Schrodinger's Valley.
This is really interesting. Like, I'm not going to question elmagus because elmagus won the league last year, one of the best runners in this race. But I'm definitely curious to know his thought process of going all the way down, seeing D-Mist, and then leaving before. Because he knew that the Magus Sisters were there from the first fight, and he decided to press on. So this is really curious to me. Nightdew now entering the second form of the Dark Elf, the Dark Dragon, which is susceptible to hourglasses, making this part easier. The first part of Dark Elf is definitely the more dangerous part of the fight, and Nightdew able to defeat this Dark Dragon without too much problem.
Absolutely. When Dark Elf transforms into Dark Dragon, he loses his boss bit, so he gains vulnerability to death, stop, many other status effects.
Well, I don't know if he's still, like, if he used death. I've never seen a coffin work on him, but stop and weak are the two that I think are used the most often against the Dark Dragon.
Ah, true. I was thinking of weak.
Yeah, TCG Jin. This is only a 3-person race between elmagus and Nightdew. Yesterday there was a race between the 3 of them and Flurry, where Flurry was eliminated by unfortunately finishing 4th. So this is the next round after that.
And Nightdew finds Hook from Earth Crystal, not Hook, Magma Key, so Nightdew is able to skip the Hook.
Which means if he does decide to skip the Hook, that means he's missing out on D-Mist and Edge. And there's sirens in the cave there too. So there's a lot in that Hook route that's useful, even if it's not going to be the most efficient way to get underground. And we'll see if Nightdew ever pulls the trigger and goes down that route anyways.
Oh yes, with Magma Key in play, it's very unlikely that anyone else goes up to check King and Queen Eblon's spot. So if Twin Harp leads to something, that could be a massive advantage or a massive time sink. Depending on if it could be a massive time sink if Harp doesn't have anything.
Yeah, I mean, if it ends up being the Drain Spear at Twin Harp, then that's just a lot of time lost for elmagus. Now, Error is following Nightdew's lead, going through the Tower of Zot. Going to be facing out that Dark Elf really shortly here. And Nightdew is going to be the first of our runners to go underground after dropping that Magma Key into the well in Agart.
Right, let's see where Nightdew heads. Stopping at Dwarf Castle first.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of reasons to want to go to Dwarf Castle first. Especially with Fusia in the party, the fact that there's 2 bosses there that aren't necessarily the most high-level ones. With the flag that we have, the F flag is the Fusia challenge, and so that means instead of being the overpowered 1900 all spells monster that Fusia is, he starts with I think it's 500 HP and 6 spells, something like that, and every boss that you defeat gives him another 100 HP to his maximum and 3 random spells. And so the fact that you get to fight 2 bosses here will give him 6 more spells, 200 more HP, and that's much closer to being full power. So he doesn't necessarily need another character. His party is pretty good right now, although I wouldn't be surprised if he ditched Porum for a number of characters. But the fact that there's 2 bosses and a potential key item spot just makes it so that it's not a surprise that he wants to go here first.
Absolutely. Although our Fu already has nuke, so he's already tossing out 5,000 damage spells. It's just bosses are more a matter of HP for him at this point.
Yeah, and I don't know what sort of white magic spells he has at this point too. So, he'll be able to kill bosses at this point, but depending on what he wants to do for the party for the Zemus fight, he might not want Porum. He might just want to use lean on Fusia as the white mage, who could also do black magic stuff too. So.
Another nice thing about Dwarf Castle is it actually gives a hefty chunk of experience, about 41,000 with both boss fights combined, which is pretty nice for nightdew who does not have sirens.
Right. The only one who has access to sirens from the shop is elmagus, who went to Evelyn Cave, which is where the sirens are being sold.
And here in Dwarf Castle, we had a reverse Mylan situation. It was Mylan Z as the first fight, and then Mylan and Friends as the second fight. So you killed him, and then he came back to life as a normal guy? Maybe the zombies split off from his body.
And was that right? It was Cecil, and nightdew said, "Nah, man, I don't need Cecil."
Yep, that's what chat's saying too.
Wow.
Mylan's secret castle, I love it.
Considering that nightdew's already completed Mount Ordeals, or did he complete Mount Ordeals? He does not have the pass. I think only Error did that, so that might be why he didn't want it.
elmagus did Mount Ordeals as well. He has the pass, but correct, nightdew skipped Ordeal.
Okay, so that might be that makes more sense than ditching Cecil then, trying to avoid the Ordeals rabbit hole, which could end up biting nightdew since it was the pass as the item up there, which means if nightdew never does Mount Ordeals, he'll have to do that walk of shame, a walk all the way down the lunar subterranean in order to get to Zero.
Absolutely. I think I've seen a lightsaber in this race, but I'm not 100% certain of it.
Yeah, lightsaber's a pretty good weapon, but I think it's 4th in, and if you have, it might be 4th or 5th as far as the best. I'm not sure exactly where Artemis Bow, Artemis Arrows lie in the ranking, but I'd rather have Defense Sword, Excalibur, or Crystal Sword for him.
And Error validating the seed with an employment dwarf check, I think that, something line, power line installer and mechanic. Very long in there. I forgot it in between seeing it and saying.
My favorite NPC in the game, of course.
How many jobs has that guy had? How long does each one last?
He's like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins.
Nightdew is looting the treasures from Dwarf Castle. It's not usually seen, although we're still pretty early in the seed, and he has a lot of characters now.
Yeah, this is a play that you see if they either feel like they've got the wrong equipment for the character set that they have, or if they think there's still a lot of items I need to buy and I just don't have the cash. It's a bit of a long stretch. There's a lot of treasures in Dwarf Castle, but they're stretched out among a lot of different, it's a big place to go through to get all those treasures. So it is a time commitment, but it can pay off. I know that there's been multiple times where that's where I found the cursed ring that I need for the seed. So
Absolutely. And Dwarf Castle gave a Pinktail. We have the no adamants flag on, so instead of the powerful adamant armor, Pinktail will only give a top tier weapon or other armor, but not adamant. We'll probably only see that if someone finds Rattail. Meanwhile, Era's here in the Feymarch checking the free item, which is Luca Key, and elmagus is diving a Twin Harp, so we'll see if Demus holds any value.
Yeah, we're going to get some music here very shortly while nightdew is grinding a few eggs in order to get some experience. Might have found I think there was a siren that was found in a chest. Era had cashed it in up on the top of Mount Ordeals to get the Lilith light, and nightdew used it here to crack an egg and basically give himself a bunch of levels to see if these battles down at the bottom of the Feymarch are doable.
I love eggs, 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 eggs.
Eggs Benedict are my favorite, but I like them in a lot of forms.
I love scrambled.
Okay, so Era's going to be the first to take a peek, and we see 2 moon bosses. That is a scary proposition.
Oh, he's doing the Leviathan spot. Pale dim and reset.
Yeah, that is a very scary pale dim spot. But now all focus is going to be for a moment on elmagus' screen as he's treating us to music because it's time to listen to DJ Spoony B's Rockin' Tunes.
Kick it! And tonight we have the Song of Storms from Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. With an appropriate boss too, the Watermaker himself, Kainazo.
And meanwhile, just for completion's sake, the second boss down at the Ashura spot at the bottom of the Feymarch is the Wyvern.
Oof, both of those Feymarch bosses are nasty. I don't think the players are going to be coming back to that for a long time.
If they are able to find either a good agility anchor or a curse ring, the Wyvern might be doable, but that they'll have to make sure that they can get a lot of things like illusions. They might want a moon veil to try to, if they can find one in a chest, to try to take on that pale dim, because that Leviathan spot has a very nasty physical attack.
It's a drain spear from the harp. You called it exactly.
Wow.
Oof.
Just call me Rex.
I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry, elmagus. Hey, we actually have Kane. We can actually use it.
Yeah, technically that's true.
Just gonna make a note of that one on my notepad here.
I think that's the first prediction I've ever gotten right. So.
Scala Kitty says in chat, well, at least he'll go get his Magna Key now.
So this means that demist is going to be a hoax. No demist hunting required in this scene.
Oh, I was so hoping for a CPU to your seed. Well, I always laugh at trolley seeds, even if I'm playing them. I mean, you gotta have a sense of humor.
So So Nightdew, finding the rat tail from Sheila 1, has access to that hook, so might be able to cash that in right away. Also has the pink tail, so we'll be able to cash that in as well.
Absolutely. It's pretty rare to see a pink tail chick. I'm curious what's going to be behind it.
Yeah, I think something like an Avenger would probably be something that Nightdew would want the most. That, or like a Stardust Rod, maybe a white shirt. Those are some of the like top tier items that you're able to get in this sort of seed.
Oh, okay, it's another Murasame. I mean, not bad. I mean, kind of dicey with multiple ninja swords already.
And an Artemis bow is the other cache in here. So, I mean, these are very good pieces of equipment. No progression from Adam and Grotto today.
Oh, the Moon Dude pointing out in chat could really use that Edge, and that's right. I forgot Edge was the character at the hook, so Nightdew does not have him.
Yeah, the only runner who's seen Edge is elmagus. He lost a lot of time through that music check, but he definitely gains something for having an Edge in the party. So.
Absolutely. Edge is extremely powerful, which is why there's a flag to restrict where he can be found.
Yeah, I think like his strength is really most seen in the early game. As the game rolls on, the characters like Kane and Yang and Cecil catch up to what he can do. Edge still has some corner case, or has some usefulness as a very fast character. And if you get the right equipment, he's a very strong hitter. He's versatile. He's got that dart ability that does things. And he could use the ninja magic. Again, that's more of an advantage in the early part. He's more of a jack of all trades character than the one who's going to be your primary physical attacker in most situations.
Absolutely. Another example of his jack-of-all-trades nature is his ability to use elemental claws to strike weak points.
Yeah, it's often forgotten that he can actually equip those claws, and you know, there's times where if you're in a seed where you have to check trap chests, and giving him that lightning claw in like Tower of Babel can really help clear up those alerts.
Absolutely. At the moment, our runners are mostly just retracing each other's steps, so it'll be a few minutes before we see anything new.
Yeah, so why don't we give, while we're doing that, give a little bit of time to shout out. We've got Smatey doing the restreaming today, making sure that we've got a broadcast, so big shout outs there. Maggie the Cat doing the tracking today, big shout outs to them. We're being broadcast on the Randomania Network today, so big shout outs to the Randomania Network for letting us have our league race on their channel. Very much appreciated. Make sure you give all of these runners a follow. These are some of the best runners in all of Free Enterprise, so they're definitely ones to check. And make sure you give Stormy a follow as well.
Absolutely. Thank you to everyone involved in producing this league, these streams. So much fun to just participate and watch.
So I think Error now is going to be doing that same rat tail, pink tail double check that we just saw from Nightdew. Nightdew now taking that time to actually go up into Mount Ordeals, going to get that pass. So I'm going to be avoiding that walk of shame. So that's good. Like it's a feel bad that if the reason, like, given how close the race was yesterday, if one of the runners had to go through the walk versus the pass, that could be the difference in the race. So when we're dealing with racers that are this good, I'd rather not see it come down to that. So the fact that all of the runners have the pass, I think is great.
Absolutely. Now, as far as checks that we haven't seen yet, I think the only things available to us are Keyless Tower and Luca Cave. I would expect our players to most likely dive Luca Cave next.
At least to take a peek, I think that's not a surprise if they decide to do that.
Right. Luca Cave is a bit of a long check, but one of the advantages of it is that you don't have to fight the boss to check the item. You can look at the item and then just nope out of there with a backup save. And meanwhile, Error is diving into Cave Eblin to check the shop and the character, so he'll be very pleased with what he finds.
Well, at least the shop. We'll see if he decides to venture down to the character as well. That could be depending on, like, he might feel very happy about how party is situated right now. And as you see, there's the exit. Not going to see there. Going to be missing out on seeing that edge.
That's a shame, but it's also a completely reasonable play. And he's got a very competent party as it is.
Oh, without a doubt. This is a strong party for all of our runners. We've been given strong characters from the get-go, and I think that's kind of why the runners aren't prioritizing, other than elmagus did, they aren't prioritizing Edlin. And even, like, I want to check the shop because, well, in Arrow's sake, it paid off because now I've got access to those sirens. But I'm not going to bother taking the time to go down to get the character, even though we've seen so much tremendous equipment for Edge that he'd be so strong at the party this time.
Absolutely. Okay, looks like Nightdew is heading for Cave Eblin as well. We'll see if he checks the character or just the shop. So at least none of our runners will be missing Siren.
Yeah, and that's going to even the playing field again, because again, we don't want to see. Well, I would foresee on the party the D machine grind is going to be available to everyone as well. So that's an opportunity that people can take if they hadn't found sirens. And just like Error, nightdew exiting out right after that shop check, going to be missing out on Edge.
Well, we'll see how that plays out, because this party's already doing lots of damage.
And elmagus decides to ditch Kane and keep Cecil instead.
Right, I don't remember what Cecil swords we've seen, but there must be decent ones at least, or at least he can use the rune axe.
Yeah, there's the rune axe. You had mentioned the saber earlier. Vetrius explaining taking Cecil over Kane. Cecil has a better HP progression. His stats are really good. Paladin Cecil is probably, if you get the right equipment for him, has the potential to be the strongest character in the game. And at this point, he's very happy with the equipment that Edge has, and it looks like he wants to keep the 3 magic users. And so he just thinks that Kane is going to be doing a better job or Cecil's going to be doing a better job than Kane throughout the rest of the siege. So I kind of understand that decision making. Although personally for me, I probably would have ditched one of the mages and gone with a triple physical attack, because I like a hybrid strategy or a berserk strategy for the Zemus fight. If you're more comfortable doing reflex strats, then making this decision makes a lot of sense too. So.
Absolutely. We have a ton of good characters in this seed, and it would be hard to make a decision. I mean, just about anything you take is good.
Right. And it's like, I wouldn't have faulted him for keeping Kane either. Like, Kane's a great character. He's got some advantages too. I think Cecil ends up having more advantages, but you're going to have to level him at this point as well. So, I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages to both sides.
So, Cave Luca, Sealed Cave, just Insaminate, just another Edge Sword. elmagus might keep that, but the others are not going to.
Yeah, I would venture to guess that even elmagus would not keep that, just to save the time and not have to get out of that sealed cave.
So it has to be Keyless Tower, right? I think that's the only thing we have left.
That sounds right. Or one of the moon bosses down at the bottom of Feymarch. We've got those two.
Oh, true. And Error's going to take another look at that. Or yeah, maybe it's his first look, considering he's at 1 HP.
Well, I think that was his strategy going in, was to do the 1 HP, full HP Cecil and have him cover. But that, as he was still able to one-shot the back row Cecil, that's going to make it a lot more difficult.
Oh, Oh, that makes a lot of sense, and that would be very clever. That would make this spot a lot easier. Still difficult, though, as you can see. The Leviathan spot has an enormous amount of physical attack.
Yeah, and it looks like he re-equipped so that he's got a little bit more physical defense. If he would have something like a glass helmet or something, that would be really useful for this sort of strategy. But basically just going through everything and now just deciding, you know what, I'm going to heal up all my parties, so using a cabin.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about how the King and Queen Evelyn spot had very high physical attack, even though they don't use physical attacks in the vanilla game. The same is true for Leviathan. It just hits very, very hard.
Yeah, it's a very strong spot, very fast spot. Even though like he just uses magic and big wave in the vanilla game, the physical attack at this spot is very strong. It looks like we see Evil Wall at the top of tower for nightdew.
Absolutely. I don't think this fight will be too hard. Might be kind of long, though, with this spot's HP.
Yeah, it is a high HP spot, and so the fact that he's got Pusia means that it's probably not going to be too dangerous. He could just use nukes. If he didn't have access to that kind of firepower, then the danger in this spot is taking too long and getting to that crush phase, which is an instant-death attack that Evil Wall uses after a while.
Elmagus and Error are both diving Luca Cave now. It seems like everyone wants to avoid that keyless tower. Now, I will say in my own runs, avoiding keyless tower is something that has burned me a lot, and just speaking personally for my own play, I like doing keyless tower because you can just reset out of it, and it is something I've pushed myself to do more because I've been burned by it a lot. Okay, Rexrawl says he needs to run aside for a bit, so I will be doing commentary for myself for a few minutes. I'll see you when you get back. nightdew successfully takes down Evil Wall, and we'll see in just a moment what the reward for that is. And Adamant, so that is part of our go mode, but it's not opening up any new areas, so we might have to fight the Feymarch bosses. Oof. We'll see how our runners manage to handle these challenges. In fact, one thing that was mentioned earlier for Wyvern was getting an agility anchor. I wonder if we might see any of our characters go back and actually pick up that Edward just to have a level 1 character to anchor. And nightdew's making the run out of the tower. Elmagus and Error will get their adamants soon, but we know that everyone's going to have to do this at some point. At Get Cooped in chat, I have seen illusions used in this seed. I do not know if they came from a chest or that they were purchased in a shop. Since I have not seen many of them, I think they maybe have just come from a chest. Okay, chat says illusions were in a shop. I'm not sure what shop they were in, but it is good to know that there are options. And Cecil cover strats will also probably make Pale Dim easier, since you only have to keep up. Well, you have less characters that you have to keep Blink up on, but Pale Dim is still going to be a difficult boss.
And I'm back, and I see that the Adamant was found. Was that at the top of the tower?
Absolutely it was, and it looks like our other options are just Feymarch bosses, so I was talking about that for a bit. Looks like nightdew is going to grind more eggs.
Yeah, I heard you talking briefly about the cover strats, and that's going to be something that, since nightdew decided to ditch Cecil in Dwarf Castle, that might come back to haunt him, because that cover strategy might be one of the best ways to get through that Pale Dim fight.
Right, welcome back. And yes, that's probably also why Nightdew is doing so much grinding right now.
Yeah, the other fight that Wyvern fight's going to be very difficult. They're going to need to do some real good agility manipulation in order to get that, in order to get a Star Veil down in the right timing. It can be very difficult because that is not an easy fight there.
Absolutely. The Feymarch bosses are some of the highest agility spots in the game, I think beaten only by Luca Cave, the vanilla evil wall spot.
Get Cooped is mana underflow available. It is not in this seed, in this flag set.
Correct. The only glitch that we have enabled is the life glitch.
Yeah, so no warp in Dwarf Castle, no MP underflow, and no item duplication.
At Gale Guy in chat, I'm new to this rando, what's an anchor for? Okay, the way that what agility anchoring is that when the developers were designing Final Fantasy IV, they wanted the battle speeds to flow at a consistent pace for most of the game. This is the first game in the series to feature the active time battle system, so the implementation is a bit odd compared to later games. In particular, we have what we call our agility anchor, which the agility of every character in the fight, including the enemies, is scaled to your party leader, the center slot. By putting a slow character in the slot, you can essentially make the rest of your party look faster and give the rest of your party an easier time catching up to the enemies. This is particularly relevant for Wyvern, as Wyvern opens with a Mega Nuke on its first turn, and you need to beat it to that first turn in order to get out of Star Veil to survive.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting in the vanilla game, by having Cecil be the anchor no matter where he is in the party, we have the AA flag on, and that's what makes it so that center character is going to be the one who always determines the agility. Basically, in layman's terms, the slower the person in the middle is, the faster everyone else is relative to them. There's a lot more details that goes into it than that, but that's kind of it in its most purest form.
Absolutely, and like you mentioned, in the vanilla game, it's always scaled to Cecil because he will always be in your party. When Cecil is not in your party, it goes by your party priority slots, which basically means whoever's in the middle.
Who rolled the seed? I think it was our restreamer Smapety, but I'm not 100% sure on this.
Yes, I joined the restream voice chat a little bit late, so I didn't see the rolling.
Okay.
Smapety special.
So now I think Era's grinding into a point where he's going to feel comfortable, I think, doing those Cecil cover strategies for that Pale Dim fight. Here we are, Nightdew going to try taking on that Pale Dim.
Right, Nightdew has a lot more levels under his belt now, such that, for example, you can actually see Yang survive one punch. Not more than one, though, because that still took off like 2/3 of his HP.
Yeah, this fight is going to be no joke, without a doubt.
So Fu and Porum working to bring up the blinks now.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the advantages of having more than one white mage in your team. We see Quack Kid doing what he does.
That's right. Pale Dim has a script with a lot of different elemental absorbs and counters. Quake is very useful in this fight because Quake manages to not be absorbed and not be countered.
Yeah,
it has been a while. Sorry, go on.
The speed and power of Faildim seems to be catching up to nightdew here. This is 3 of his party members are down now, and Kane with that rune axe. The rune axe has a very high attack power, but its hit percentage is so low that it ends up doing a lot less damage than other similarly powered weapons at that point, and that's making it so that Kane is not able to deal quite or very much damage at this point. Or you see the damage rolls from 500 to 1400 there, and that's the that hit percent being rolled in there, and nightdew ends up having to take a reset there.
Absolutely, and Faildim's extreme speed at this spot is not being helped by the fact that it counters physical attacks with slow. And I was thinking, man, it's been a while since I've seen a seed with required bosses this nasty.
Yeah, these are some of the toughest bosses that are available without boon access, and the fact that both of them are kind of playing to their strengths. That Assure spot has a very high speed and magic attack for Wyvern, and the Leviathan spot also has high speed, but the very high physical attack for Faildim, so that makes both of these fights very difficult.
Oof, just the Dragon Rulers. There's no getting around this. These are like high-level survival strats more than high-level speed strats.
So, one option, if they need to, if worse comes to worse and that Wyvern fight is required, and they absolutely need to get a better anchor, one option that's still available for them is that Edward that's behind Golbez on Mount Hobbs. So we might see Edward come into place specifically to help defeat that Wyvern.
Absolutely. I mentioned that earlier when you were taking a break, but it's good to have a reminder for anyone who's just joining us that there are options available. Just some of the options we can think of are very long and out of the way, and that's also depending on if our runners even remember it.
Right. They probably haven't. They haven't haven't gone to Hobbs since very early in the seed, almost an hour ago. And so, will they like? A big part of this game is remembering. Got it at your disposal, and these are top runners, so I don't think they're going to forget. But we'll see how long it takes before they think that that's what they have to do in order to do that. The other thing is, if it ends up that the Darkness Crystal is behind this Faildim, then they might not have to deal with the Wyvern either. And so I don't blame them all for going to this Faildim first before thinking like they may have to go towards that Edward in order to defeat the Wyvern.
Absolutely, and if Faildim gives Darkness Crystal also gives a character, so they could get that instead of having to go back and go through the incredibly long Golbaz fight just for Edward.
That's a good point, too, yeah. And Error is the first to defeat Faildim.
Showing off the power of cover strats here, and getting for his troubles the tower key, so he's got something he can check now. But it'll take us a minute to know if it's actually good or not. And he's not even going to challenge the Wyvern yet. Just get out of there and go check that first.
Yeah, I don't blame anybody for trying to avoid that Wyvern. nightdew, right on the heels of Error, defeated that Faildim. Gonna get his tower key, and then we'll see if Magus is able to defeat this dragon as well.
And good work to nightdew for managing to take down Faildim without Cecil cover straps. not having Cecil there makes that fight significantly more dangerous, hence why Arrow managed to get through it first, despite nightdew starting it first. Meanwhile, Magus is taking it on, and even though he has a Cecil, he's not using the cover strat, so we'll see how things go for him.
He's using kind of a partial cover strat. His mages in the back row are coverable, but he's keeping blink up on both of his fighters in the front row, so...
I think this might actually be a good idea, because with all of Pale Dam's attacks being focused on Cecil, he burned through his blinks really fast. By keeping him up on both Cecil and Edward, it might actually make it easier to keep it up on Cecil.
Yeah, I don't know if he forgot or is just avoiding the cover strats entirely. If you're parrying with Cecil, he won't cover anybody, so that caused Palom to fall. But Palom is back up now. We got cover up, and looks like he's using mostly like quakes and nukes to try to deal a lot of damage.
Right, and in the tower boss spot, we just have vanilla dark imps, very easy free fight.
Is this even randomized? And that gives full power to Air's Fusia, so that's the max 1900 HP or default 1900 HP. And all the spells. All the spells.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Air and nightdew currently neck and neck in this race. Ooh, and unfortunately, the falls for elmagus.
Another thing, if Wyvern is required, I wonder if we'll see nightdew or Error do more demist hunting instead of trying to take on Wyvern. That could be an advantage for Magus, knowing that he's already found demist and that it does not have any value.
That's a good point, because if they end up going down and into Evelyn Cave, fighting that demist, and then going through Twin Harp, that's a lot of time that they could take if they don't concentrate on Wyvern here.
I was also thinking about maybe if one of them goes to the giant, hoping, or not hoping, but dreading seeing demist there.
Well, we don't have access to the giant until we get that darkness crystal, so I don't think we're going to get that right now. But we do see a pan as the item from the tower key, and that's going to open up another couple checks. One from the Sylphs here, and then we have Sheila too.
I see people posting pansexual pride emotes in chat, and I love it.
Woobear asking, do people grind to nuke white before finishing moon or no? You know, it depends on the runner. It depends on the party. I've seen some runners, like I've seen people with the exact same party in the exact same race, and one grinds and one doesn't. So it's totally up in the air.
See, White Spear from the fairies, so that's the best weapon for Kane, for those who still have him. I will say that Error also has 10 key items, so further experience grinding will be easier for him now, if he needs to do it.
I'll say the White Spear is kind of like his ultimate weapon of the game. I'll generally prefer the Dragoon Spear most of the time.
Here's Sheila, moment of truth. Darkness Crystal! We can skip that Wyvern for now.
Yeah, it is, of course, important to remember that Wyvern might be guarding the Legend Sword.
Right, for now. We might still have to come back to it later. And yes, what you were saying about White Spear being technically Kane's ultimate weapon, but sometimes often preferring Dragoon Spear, that's one of the things about Kane with his versatility of equipment, is that he's got multiple viable endgame weapons, and not all of them are clearly better than others, like Cecil and his Excalibur or Crystal Sword are. Depending on the weakness of depending on the weaknesses of the enemy at hand, you might prefer Dragoon Spear, you might prefer White Spear, you might prefer Avenger, you might be stuck with Defense or Gungnir or Rune Axe. He's got a lot of viable weapons.
Yeah, Kain being unique and being able to equip both swords, axes, and spears makes him very useful in that. I think the spears are usually a little bit better than the bows that Cecil has available to him. However, the bows do lend for an easier back row glitch for Cecil, and access to Artemis bow, Artemis arrows is sometimes going to be a very good choice even for Cecil if you're not seeing some of those upper echelon weapons.
Absolutely. The use of Artemis bow and Artemis arrows still gives Cecil a means of dragon killer property, which quadruple damage to dragons is extremely good for grinding because most of your high experience enemies are dragons.
Kiko in the chat asking, what is back row glitch? When you equip a weapon that has the back row properties, such as a bow and arrow or certain other weapons, you can do same damage from the back row. And so you get the advantage of the extra defense from the back row. Once you unequip it, the game doesn't remember that you unequipped it, so you keep that property, so you can switch over to your crystal sword and get all the benefits of the back row property weapon, like the bow and arrow that Cecil previously had equipped, with being able to equip that super strong physical weapon that you have available to you. So that's a big advantage that Cecil.
And on the moon, we have Return of the Bard. Chat saying keep him. Do Wyvern. Yes, please.
Nightdew now in the Hummingway shop. We see Bacchus wines for sale. Bacchus wines, if you use it, cast the Berserk spell on the user. A very useful item for physical attackers.
Another note that I wanted to give on the back row glitch. We've talked about the back row glitch being easier for Cecil than it is for Kain. Cecil has very easy access to back row glitch because he can use bows, and bows are very plentiful. Whereas Kain's only back row viable weapon is the Dwarf Axe, which is the Dwarf Axe's attack animation is throwing it and it boomeranging back. So Dwarf Axes are much more rarer, so it's not as often that you'll get to back row glitch Kain. Although he does have his own back row viability in the jump command, although jump is not always preferable to fight, especially say if you're using Berserk.
Correct. Yeah, it's the Dwarf Axe, bows and arrows, harps, and boomerangs are the back row glitch weapons that you usually look for. And a lot of characters in this game can use bow and arrows. Like Kain and Edge and Tella, I think, are the only ones who can't.
And Yang cannot use bows as well.
Oh, yeah. My favorite character,
Yang is actually great. Like, he doesn't scale very well because in vanilla he doesn't scale very well because you only really have him for early game. But since Yang's stats damage only depend on his level, he actually scales very well in Free Enterprise, being a powerhouse at endgame.
Yeah, he's very good at endgame. In the early, his damage output as a starting character is very poor, especially compared to the other physical attackers that you get. And but once you get at the end game, he has tons of hit points, tons of damage potential. He can be very good.
Right, so even though that Nightdew does not have Cecil, he's not going to be disappointed by the Kain that he has, by the Yang that he has instead.
And do we have all three of our runners in the Cave Bahamut at this point?
That's what it looks like. Nightdew and Era are fighting some gold dragons for even more experience first before taking on Asura here. Asura's not going to be an easy boss. This spot has high physical power, and Asura will counter any damage taken.
Yeah, I mean, Asura it has a strong physical attack However, it's Ashura, since she doesn't do any physical attack until she's attacked herself, you can prep, but you can get as many illusions up.
And also having Fu and Forum here, they'll have plenty of access to Wall for reflecting her cures off, so this boss has high stats, but it's not going to be that bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of prep that you can do. If you want to do just like reverse or reflected magic off your characters onto her, that's another option that you have. There's a lot of things that you can do to mitigate Ashura, compared to like that pale dim that we fought earlier, which was just going to be going all out physical on you from the beginning. We also have access to that rune axe that we saw earlier today. That's going to do quad times damage onto Ashura.
Absolutely. The rune axe has mage killer property, and Asura does have the mage flag.
And now we're seeing a berserk cane with that rune axe. That's going to do quite a bit of damage. And we got some protection with the blink spells. Like, this could be a scary boss, but I think Arrow's done plenty of prep and is going to be able to get through this with a relatively.
Absolutely. Over 9,000 damage from that hit.
Yeah, we'll see how long it's going to be before Magus and Nightdew decide to join this Ashura fight. And Magus is ready for Ashura just as his Error defeats her.
And a white robe. Forum will be happy to see that, but players, they'll be just eh.
Yeah, Error also dealing with the other final boss, inventory management.
Like death and taxes, inventory management comes for all of us eventually.
Yeah, if you're playing free enterprise, that is. So now Error flying over to the lunar subterrane. I believe it's 7 key item checks in the lunar subterrane.
Let me count that up real quick.
Oh wait, I think it's only 6.
Yes, it would be 6. It's 7 on the moon when you include Bahamut. And Error dismissed Porum to keep Edward. Looks like Error is actually happy to see an anchor here.
Yeah, whether he's going to go back to that Wyvern fight or fight these tough moon bosses here, having a good anchor is going to be an advantage. Porum, although we saw some usefulness in having a second caster of Blink or heal spells or something, or Berserk, for the very end game, since her HP progression is so bad, and some of the key spells for the final battles she learns at way higher level, it's tough. Sometimes it's tough to justify keeping her when you've got a perfectly viable white mage in Lucia in the party already. So you can take the opportunity to get rid of Porum, get what's going to be a great anchor in a default level Edward, and just use that for the rest of the run, and basically using the other 4 party members as your way of dealing with the bosses.
Absolutely, and so with this, we're going to see Deadward on more than one screen. King and Queen Evelyn here is a free boss. All you need to do is just wait, and they will leave eventually.
Yeah, you can also kill them. If you can kill them faster, Swift goes, you can save a little time. And I think that's why you're seeing Paladin casting Quake there.
Between Fight and Mercy, we're choosing Fight today.
That even faster, because I think Megas entered before nightdew did. So. Oh, it looks like Simbu in the chat noting that elmagus no longer has that rune axe. So that's the thing. Like the rune axe, you get a lot of money for selling it. It is a very expensive item. But for fights like this, it goes a lot faster if you still have that rune axe in your possession.
Absolutely. Asura is one of the biggest reasons to keep a rune axe. And meanwhile, Error gets the Baron key. We'll see if he makes. We'll see if he decides to bail on the moon or keep going.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice here. And it looks like he is going to go back to the blue planet.
He might, while he's down there, he may take on Wyvern again, and it might be the Edward that's leading him back there. In fact, I'll make a note to ask him about that later.
Yeah, I think that's always gonna be the back of the minds of lots of runners. And now Era's got this justification to go back down there anyway, with that Baron key. So he's going back there. Meanwhile, nightdew. What Era did was go from the top down in the lunar subterranean and do that pale dim spot first and found that King Queen Evelyn, whereas nightdew is heading down to the bottom, going to go for a bottom down spot or bottom up strategy in the lunar subterranean, which is, I think, all things considered, more common that we see this from runners, is going from the bottom up and make your home base that last save point. However, if this ends up like this, could be the difference. It looks like Magus is also going top down, going to get that King Queen, going to find that Baron key. The routing that the runners are making right now, this could very well be the difference in who wins and who doesn't make the top two in this race here.
Absolutely. After seeing all of the players get funneled through Pale Dim at Leviathan, we're now seeing divergence again at 1 hour and 19 minutes.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Nightdew going for what's often the traditional first spot. He finds the Karate Man, and he's the only person who doesn't have Paladin. So, Karate Man can be instantly defeated after the second kick by hitting him with a physical attack with Paladin Cecil. But he's the only one who doesn't have access to that, and it has to actually fight through all the hit points in this D-lunar spot for the Karate Man.
Absolutely. So was this the room with the twin treasure chests?
It is. This is the D-lunar spot, the vanilla ribbon, where both of them are in there. So he's going to get 2 key item checks for defeating this Karate Man, whereas Magus has just defeated King Queen Evelyn. Error at the Antlion fight, the first in the Baron Castle. Now, we'll see if Magus decides to follow the same routing that Error does and goes back to the blue planet, or if he decides to clear out the lunar subterranean.
Magus is not casting exit, so I think he's going to keep diving.
Yeah, so we've got 3 different routing that we're seeing here right now, so this is really interesting. All 3 of these basically had access to the same thing, but they're choosing different routes to go, and this is going to make this final stretch of the race extremely interesting.
Legend Sword, that's go mode for nightdew.
So bottom up was the right strategy here. Nightdew now taking a big lead.
Nightdew still needs the levels to defeat Zeromus, but he can grind, he can go back to Earth, forge the crystal, take the pass. It's his race to lose at this.
Yeah, we'll see if Magus decides to go straight down to the bottom, or if he takes the detour over to that Wyvern spot. We'll see what happens there.
Error finding Tella in Baron, taking him over Edward as an alternate anchor.
He does know all his spells.
That's true, and he also does not grow very much with levels. So you don't have to worry as much about keeping him dead.
Looks like Magus did skip that Wyvern spot, so he's going to be in that that Karate Man fight. He's going to be getting his go mode item very shortly as well.
Absolutely. What nightdew did here was a pretty standard play, diving down to the middle of the lunar subterrane and, like you said, making camp at the save point. It's most common for players to go bottom up because then you get the highest quantity or highest density of item checks, which, as you can see, has paid off today.
Yeah, and having like almost 3 boss checks really close to that save point means that you could go back, save, heal up, and then do the next one relatively easily instead of like that pale dim spot, which is kind of out of nowhere. Elmagus using the alternate win of smacking Yang with Paladin Cecil, getting the ouch, and nightdew remembering to pick up that crystal and is heading over to Troya. Looks like he is ready to go and try to defeat Zemus. So Stormy.
All right, guess what, folks? It's time to ask our favorite question. Whose butt are we gonna kick today?
Yeah, it is absolutely butt time, and nightdew leading the pack right now. Elmagus is not going to be far behind either, so this is going to be a real interesting finish here. Depending on like if there's any sort of slip-ups in nightdew's Zemus fight here, then Elmagus could absolutely swoop in and steal this. Things are not looking good for Error right now as far as making it to the top 2 and proceeding to the top 8 of this tournament. Right now, Magus and nightdew are in very good shape right now.
Absolutely. Nightdew has got the lead over Elmagus right now, but it's not a very big one. So, like you said, if he makes one mistake and wipes to Zeromus, that could be GG for him. He's got some pretty good stats here. He did a lot of grinding, got even more levels from the Moon Boss, not many, but some. He's got 2,000 HP on Porum. I think he should be pretty safe.
Yeah, the thing is that that Karate Man Yang fight, once you've got that 10 key items in that D-Lunar spot, is worth a cool 200,000 experience. That is a lot in one shot. And so now we see the Gur-Urg.
It's the cursed pirate LeChuck. I've never played the Monkey Island games. That sprite looked very strange to me at first. I didn't quite understand what I was looking at until I saw the name.
Yeah, for all you fans of point-and-click adventure games, here you go. So now Elmagus is now flying over to Troya. Nightdew throwing out that Silk Web. Going to be very common to see runners use that Silk Web at the beginning of the Zemus fight. Does a double slow effect. Also triggers a counter nuke from Zemus, which if you do it before the first big bang is going to severely reduce the amount of damage that first big bang does. Very, just so good overall to open the fight with that.
That's right. It looks like nightdew is setting up for hybrid strats here. So I don't know if nightdew has a unicorn on hand. I've heard unicorn strats talked about a lot, but I've never actually seen them in action. Or yeah, I think. Yeah, okay, I see Palom using a Starveil now, so this is going to be hybrid strats.
Yeah, I'm not sure. At these levels, I think just going ahead and going pure hybrid is going to be just fine. But there is a way to, about halfway through the Zemus fight, if you hit with a physical attack or a direct spell, they'll refill his HP. And you can avoid that by stopping the berserking by using a uniform with correct timing. Here, I don't think it's going to be necessary. I think the amount of damage the berserkers are doing and reflected spells just means that you're going to get through this fight fast enough anyway. So,
right, we're seeing quad 9s from Nuke.
Yeah. And Kane is also throwing out an immense amount of damage with his berserk physical attacks as well.
So, elmagus is probably going to set up a similar thing. His levels are not as high, so the fight may take a bit longer for him.
Yeah, his levels aren't as high, but his character quality, I think, is a little better with the equipment that he has for Edge, and the fact that he has Cecil over Kane is a little bit stronger. However, the levels, I think, are going to be a bigger thing. I think right now, with everything that's been done, I think nightdew is in line. Like, it's basically his race to lose at this point. Magus is right behind, and for what it's worth, Error has picked up his Legend Sword and is going to Force Crystal. He's really close, all things considered, as well.
That's right. I was about to... he slipped by and I didn't notice it until he was leaving the moon, but I was about to comment on that as well, that at least he's not going to be thrown into panic mode when he sees Duns and doesn't have Legend of Sword. At least he'll already be on his way. Yeah,
well, I don't know if that's going to be... like, if that's going to make him feel better or worse. So it kind of depends on the runner for that.
Myself, it would make me feel better, but that's up to the runner, like you said. And we have the Flash. Nightdew has officially finished with a final time of 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 34 seconds. GG to Nightdew, and congratulations on taking first place.
Yeah, that's going to put Nightdew into the top 8. So very, very well done here.
And Error is probably sweating now because he knows that elmagus is not going to be far behind.
Yeah, with, I mean, all the runners are very good, but elmagus is, like, kind of notorious. He won the league last year, and so knows that he's not going to be going down without a fight here. But Error is flying over to Toria, and is going to be entering this fight very shortly as well. And now Error cashing in his pass, going to take the Serpent Road over to Zemus.
Hello, Nightdew. Congratulations on your first place finish. How do you feel right now?
Awesome. Yeah, it was. I wouldn't say it was like a huge gamble going to hit that Earth real quick, but when life gives you an early nuking Fusoya, you kind of run with it.
Yeah, Fu put in a lot of work on this seed.
Yeah, and very early at the beginning of the run, you decided to loot that Troya big treasure room. When you start with the Earth Crystal, is that kind of like, if you're given the Earth Crystal right at the beginning, is that always your plan?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on if I hit that treasure room, whether I'm going to do it or not, but if you give me an Earth Crystal at the start, there is no reason not to hit that dense of a treasure location to get you started. And I mean, it had the Zeus gauntlets, I believe it had a rune axe, it had everything you needed to get going.
I did not see the Zeus gauntlet, but we were talking a lot about the rune axe in this run, especially with that Asura at Baham.
Yeah, that was nice to have there. That was like the sole reason I didn't like reset out for safety. I'm like, well, she's only going to counter anyway. Kane is like mid-50s already. Let's just go get it done. And yeah, that just shows you what effective damage can do in anybody's hands.
So, what did you think about that Fey March? You were the second player to get through Pale Dim and, get into that chain that eventually led to the moon. Error was ahead of you, but Error fell into a bit of a rabbit hole after he got Baron Key on the moon and went to check that before going back.
It was the thing is, Pale Dim's script, other than, the counters, is pretty much, swing, 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 and that's very bad news when you hit Leviathan. So honestly, I saw those, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna check out these moon bosses, see what I've got. It happened to be Wyvern and that, so I'm like, okay, Baymarch is haunted, let's go anywhere else. Everywhere else didn't have it, so it was, and when I went down there the second time, I thought I had a plan. For some reason, maybe it was like a different run, I thought I had a moon veil in my pocket. I did not. I was glad I had a bunch of illusions in my pocket because I needed those, but yeah, it was a very rude Fey March, and I mean, honestly, after seeing that Wyvern, you may have saw me loot just a little bit more, looking for a curse ring, but when I finally finished up there, I'm like, okay, if it's Wyvern, we're going to accept the fact that it's going to just be there, and we might lose on this, but I was not ready to stake it on banging my head against Wyvern for hours.
Yeah, we were wondering if anyone was going to go back and get the level 1 Edward for an anchor, but fortunately, Wyvern wound up not being required.
It was in the playbook, but it was pretty far down in the playbook.
So
yeah, nobody wanted to go through Golbez. Everyone reset out of that early.
I did have a question for you, but first I want to thank you for talking to the employment dwarf. That's very important for me. But also the question that we had was, when you decided to go through Dwarf Castle and you saw Cecil, you decided to keep Kane and keep all your party members and not go with Cecil. Any thoughts on that?
The plan was to not go to Ordeals. I did not want Ordeals on my radar. I did not want to go there. I was very happy with my team. So Cecil would have done nothing for me. Honestly, his best weapon was a rune axe that Kane was sharing. So yeah, I just, at that point, I wanted nothing to do with Mount Ordeals.
And ultimately, you were the only player to not keep Cecil. And greetings to elmagus, GG, and congratulations on your second place win, and moving on to the top 8.
Hey, thank you.
Okay, so Magus, the biggest question that I have with you is, you decided to go early into Evelyn Cave. You got rewarded with that early edge that you got as the character there. You saw that the Magus sisters were the second boss. You go through there, go do the Mad Ogre's test, get your levels, find the D-Mist, and then walk out. Can you walk me through your thought process?
Yeah,
because that was one of the things that I just didn't teach me.
Look. Alright, so the plan was get levels for Paladin mainly, right? For spells. I wasn't going to fight the Magus Sisters ever, but I was going to check the boss before it just to see, well, if it's a freebie, I might think about fighting the Magus Sisters, because that's just quick, right? We had coffins and stuff, so I wouldn't. And then the mist pops up. I'm like, oh no, oh no. So I had to beat that boss. I was never going to fight the Magus Sisters actually.
Oh, okay.
Not at these levels, anyways. If the thing is, if it was a freebie, I would have gone out the room, maybe fought a battle to get Quake, and then had a decent rune X Kane. Sure, we can talk about it, right? But the plan was just see the boss, reset out, go out, do all the other stuff, That was the plan. It would have been reasonably quick. I didn't have the money to buy Sirens yet when I went through, so the plan was to buy Sirens on my way out anyways. But that got screwed up pretty big, so I don't know. That was probably the biggest time loss I had this seed. And then, it gave you the Twin Harp, which is amazing, great, right?
Yeah.
And I gave you the Dread Spear, but so that was not very good. Not a very good decision after all. That was, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 minutes that I lost there in the grand scheme of things over just get edge, get out. But I'm not unhappy that I did it, but
Right. Well, that's one of those big gambles, because had that not been the Drain Sphere, had that been the Legends, then you probably would have won in quite a bit faster than anybody else in this one. So you know, you win some, you lose some by that, but you still end up in that top 8. Very good job on the seed overall.
And even if the harp didn't pan out, at least chat loved it.
I bet.
So now both nightdew, Magus, you made it to the top 8. What are your thoughts going into the next round of the league?
For me, I mean, top 8's gotta be top 1, so we win, right? I don't know. I will try our best. I mean, you see, it seems like there's like one minor thing, like a misdragon in like a spot like that, can make a huge difference. So anybody can win, literally. Just do our best, have fun, and see what happens.
Pretty much what he said, although I am interested to hear that there was a ninja for all those ninja swords I kept picking up.
Yeah, there was. There absolutely was.
Yeah. Yes, elmagus was the only one to actually go to the character in Evelyn Cave, which turned out to be the Vanilla Edge. So, God, there were so many ninja swords, like at least 2 ninja swords, 2 Murasames, 1 Masamune, so many.
Well, I want to thank both of you for joining us for the interview. Any last thoughts that either of you have on this seed or anything that you want to say at this time?
Next time, a better seed. Thank you.
Well, we'll have whoever rolls to try their best.
Yeah, I mean, here we are back again, and I guess because we have the winners of the Dark Knight Division, here we are. We're 1-2 from last year. Come and get us if you can.
All right. GG's to both of you. Congratulations on your top 8, and good luck in your next round, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I believe we are also joined by Error now. Error, rough break there. You took that gamble after finding that Baron key. Had that been the right route, then this was your seed without a doubt, but it turned out to be the other way. How do you feel right now?
Not great. That I basically metagamed myself out of a chance. It was one of those that I felt behind. Mm-hmm. I found out later that I really wasn't. We were all about even, but I felt behind. So it was one of those, it's like, no one's finished yet. If it's one of the common places on Moon, someone would have surely finished by now. It's probably back on Earth, and I'm hope it's either Wyvern or there's a good chance it's this Baron key. So I went back to Earth with the Baron key and struck out. So
was that feeling a little bit behind the reason that you went to the Pale Dim spot first instead of down to the bottom, the more common places on the Moon to go?
Yes. Okay. Why I went Cape Bahamut first and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting because like all 3 of you were basically in that Pale Dim fight just around the same time, and then the 3 of you all went straight to Cape Bahamut afterwards, and then after that you all went different directions. So it was really interesting to see where everything came together and when everything went apart. So, like I said, if that Baron was the thing, this was your race. So it's hard to say that you did anything wrong.
It's Rando being Rando, and then, you know, when I got into the Z fight, and the execution was pretty bad anyway, but then I saw Magus finish, and it was like, and then I goofed up the fight, and it was like when I wiped, it was like, no, I'm done. I've had enough.
Well,
yeah. You've done great to survive this long and to survive through this rough seed. Like, everyone had to deal with that Fey March. That was not easy. So congrats on your use of cover strats. That was a good showing of high-level survival strats for the chat.
So it was just kind of one of those. It's like, I wish it would have worked the first time. It probably would have if I had tried again, because I got high rolled on the first damage hit that Cecil took when I tried it when he had like 1,300 max hit points. So I was considering either trying it again or going up tower, or I think I did Luca and then tower. But I would have felt certainly a lot better about, you know, if I'd, you know, taken out Pale Dim first try, then I probably wouldn't have felt behind, which means I would have done a more standard Moon route and probably actually gone and done the learners first. It would have been a completely different seed if I didn't feel like if I didn't double dip tower, if I didn't triple dip Bay March. It was just kind of one of those. It's like I got high rolled on one attack by Pale Dim, but didn't get the blink up. But then it's like, oh, if he's going to hit that hard, I needed a few more levels just to stabilize it if I'm going to try to cover strats. So that's kind of how it worked out.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it didn't work out for you, but we thank you for coming out here and putting on a great show for chat. Like I said, you did great to make it this far. I look forward to seeing more races with you in them. If you fill up for them, of course.
I'm going to take a little bit of a break from Free Enterprise. I'm going to go do, but I'll be back for more. I'll probably join the occasional weekly, do the occasional See of the Week, and go from there.
Well, congratulations. I believe this would make it so that you made it to the top 12 of the league. Very good job overall. Good showing. Taking a break, probably a good thing every now and then, but we'll be happy to see you back whenever you decide to join us, Era.
Thank you.
All right. Once again, that's Error. Make sure you give all of our runners today a follow, elmagus, Error, and nightdew. All played really well today, and over general. Also, once again, big shout outs to Smatey doing the restream tonight. And we've got Maggie the Cat who is doing the tracking tonight. Very important to have them do their jobs behind the scenes, because without that, me and Stormy would have a much more difficult time trying to bring this broadcast out to you. Stormy, any final thoughts that you have today?
I think we have plenty of time to cover everything of note for this seed, at least. I will say, this is just the first of 3 races today. I won't be commenting on the other 2, but we will raid you over to the next one. The next one's going to be on the Free Enterprise main channel. So once we finish up, we'll be heading over there, and you can check that out. We've got lots of content for you today.
Yeah, big time in Free Enterprise as the league is rolling down. We also have the Open going on. I know a lot of them aren't being restreamed, but a lot of people involved in playing a lot of Free Enterprise right now. It's a very, very happy time for Free Enterprise right now. And as Stormy said, we're going to go ahead and send you on over to Free Enterprise so that you can check out the next race in the league. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on this race. It was very fun. And for Stormy Galaxies, I'm Rex. Once again, thanks, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
You as well. See y'all later. Bye-bye.